from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on Ag Day, cattle on feed numbers are on the rise, plus the immigration debate resumes, and agribusiness tracking the U.S. dollar.
And so the same forces that drove the dollar higher is now driving the euro higher.
We'll meet a young farmer from Nebraska working hard to build her business and start her fertilizer tips from Missy Bauer on Farm Journal College TV.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Glenn Griffiths. As USDA prepares to release its monthly cattle on feed report, analysts say we could be sitting on the largest inventory at the feedlot since 2012. The December report showing the total number of cattle and calves in feedlots at 11.5 million head. That was 8% higher than a year ago. The January report is expected to be even higher. Farm Journal economist and AgriTalk radio host Chip Flory says the current feedlot herd is back to 2012 levels when severe drought in the southern plains forced many producers to liquidate their herds.
And with our total feedlot numbers up 7-8% from a year ago, that is a number that we've got to watch the supply side, obviously, but we've got to keep a closer eye on the demand side, the beef demand side. And so far, it's been great. Domestic demand has been very good, but our export demand has been excellent.
Flory says as long as the beef sector maintains current demand levels, beef packers can chew through the amount of beef that's being produced. He sees little incentive for feedlots to back off of placements. The Cattle on Feed report comes out at 3 p.m. Eastern. The latest milk production report from USDA showing the final quarter of 2017, U.S. producers pumped more than 53 billion pounds. That's up about 1% compared to the previous quarter. While the herd shrank a bit from Q3 to Q4, it remains at 55,000 head higher than a year ago. Republican senators emerging from talks on an immigration plan, including DACA concerns, say they like what they've heard so far. Around 3 dozen senators from both parties met privately. 2 top lawmakers said they tried crafting a compromise bill based on colleagues' suggestions. Now, the plan includes a pathway to citizenship for young people who were brought to the U.S. as children by their illegal immigrant parents. That DACA pathway includes a 10 to 12-year journey. President Trump says he's open to such a plan. It would also include $25 billion to build a wall on the border with Mexico.
This is about border security. It's about fixing some of the holes in our immigration system that allow criminals and others to take advantage of it, but it's also about a compassionate solution for the DACA recipients, and I think that we're all committed to seeing that through.
The White House is expected to unveil legislative framework on immigration next week that it hopes can pass both chambers of Congress.
Many people would say they don't see a consensus, but if both parties are realistic and compromise, and that includes giving Trump his money for that wall, billions of dollars for it. If he doesn't get the money, he's not going to make a deal on immigration.
The president has given Congress until March to come up with a plan to help the nearly 700,000 young people who have been protected from deportation and given the right to work legally in the country under DACA. Mike Hoffman joining us once again on this Friday morning with a look at today's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. Believe it or not, Plant 2018 is less than 30 days away, according to farmer Russell Baining. We found him hard at work on Twitter near Poth, Texas. That's southeast of San Antonio. He says he's applying nitrogen and plans to start seeding in about a month. Now, taking a look at the wind speed forecast, the middle of the country is going to be the windy area as we head through the day, and it gets very windy through the Central Plains, Central Mississippi Valley. As we head into the day tomorrow, then we'll see a lot of that wind kind of shift into the Great Lakes area where it's fairly windy early in the day, and that'll shift into the eastern lakes with a new area forming over the northern plains later in the afternoon. We'll talk more about your forecast coming up in a few minutes. First, here are some hometown temps.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
The folks over at Top Producer not only honor a large, well-established operation, they also give a young, up-and-coming farmer the Horizon Award. Well, this year that recognition goes to a young woman in Nebraska building a future one busy day at a time. Life isn't slowing down. For Maggie Hullum of Scribner, Nebraska,
My typical day, there is no typical day.
From farming and hauling grain to working as a credit analyst at Farm Credit Services of America to teaching workout classes at her local YMCA.
I fell in love with group fitness.
Full days and the quickened steps of a life unexpected.
So I have no brothers. It was always, I wanted to be involved, and I was always involved, so I'd use my vacation time to go home and help farm.
She graduated college, got a good job, and began living.
2 years into my career, my dad got diagnosed with cancer, and it totally changed everything.
He passed in October of 2014. An empty space she filled with his passion.
My mom presented the opportunity for, I have one other sister, so her husband to farm half of the acres, and then I farm the other half of the family ground.
280 acres of corn and soybeans, half of her father's equipment, and all of his enthusiasm.
I was totally scared, but I was also really excited at the same time.
But doing the work yourself is different than just helping.
It was my goal to just get a crop in and get a crop out and prove to myself and everyone else that I can farm.
It turns out she can, yielding better than 220 bushel corn and 70 bushel beans. And she's added ground and a new to her combine in the 3 years since she started.
I would like to diversify my operation even further, and I want to build a hog building, and I want to bring hog production back onto our farm.
Luckily, her professional experience at Farm Credit is helping her manage cash flows.
I also know my break-evens. I have a solid marketing plan set up, and I pull the trigger when I need to pull the trigger.
And the on-farm expenses.
I've learned real quick how much it takes to overhaul a tractor and the cost. It doesn't pencil out.
She now does much of the work herself, although convincing herself she can isn't always the hardest part.
So when you go to the parts counter and say, I need oil filters for my 240 640s and I need a clean grain elevator chain, and they look at you like, what are you gonna do with this? Well, I'm gonna go put it in. I'm gonna go change my oil.
Just like she learned to drive a 13-speed semi. And her mother, who helped give Maggie this opportunity, has been with her on every step.
No, she's been actively involved on the farm since I was born, before I was born. Yeah, she's my grain cart driver. She's my cheerleader.
Encouraging her to build a future, Maggie hopes to add more acreage and technology to the operation over time.
I just want to keep my operation in the family. I don't want to be that one that has to sell the farm because we can't make it.
And she's moving as fast as she can to make sure that doesn't happen. Even as success comes, don't expect this fourth-generation farmer to quit her day jobs anytime soon.
I love it here too. That's the struggle I have. I mean, it's real. It's a real struggle.
Because for her, family in all three parts of her life are worth the work.
And I pride myself for getting all of that done. I'll go for a run at 5 a.m. or I'll go work out at the gym, or I'll go haul corn and then come to the office. It's crazy to think how much you can get done in one day.
And how much you can accomplish when life hands you the unexpected. Congratulations to Maggie Hullop, the 2018 Top Producer Horizon Award winner. All right, when we come back, more from Top Producer Seminar in Chicago.
I'm Betsy Gibbon. The dollar hit a 3-year low earlier this week, but yet the economy seems strong. We discuss more at the Top Producer Seminar in Chicago, Illinois.
And later, we'll discuss starter fertilizer with Missy Bauer on Farm Journal College TV. Well, the U.S. economy seems to be catching fire. The value of the U.S. dollar is falling. Betsy Gibbon has more on what that means for agriculture from Top Producer Seminar.
I'm here with Chris Narayanan with GA Capital. Now, Chris, let's talk about the dollar right now. The dollar hit a 3-year low, but the economy seems to be pretty good. So what gives? How can you explain that?
Well, I mean, what we're seeing is just a reversal with the dollar. Obviously had a great rally over the last several years, and a lot of that was QE driven. And now that the QE has ended and we're starting to raise rates, the market's just taking a breather. You look over across the pond to Europe, they're still in their QE phase, and so the same forces that drove the dollar higher is now driving the euro higher.
So when we look at that, branching off from that, the Dow. Okay, so the Dow keeps climbing higher and higher over the last couple of months. But is that necessarily good for ag? Are the funds putting some of their money in the commodity market then because of that?
We're seeing a little bit of movement into the commodity market, but remember, when you look at the stock market as a whole, it's two things. It's earnings and it's employment. And unemployment has gotten very low, and earnings continue to rise, and they continue to meet or exceed expectations as and when these companies report. And it's all coming from the top line now. It's no more cost cutting or anything like that. So we're seeing more and more consumers back into the market buying goods and services. That helps to drive the earnings. The fact that unemployment is low means more people are working, more money in their pocket to spend. And so that's what's driving this market.
So if the Dow keeps climbing higher, I know we have some uncertainty with the global aspect and also the domestic aspect too, but if the Dow keeps climbing higher, do you think the Feds will have to keep raising interest rates like they've hinted in the past, or what does that look like to you?
Well, the Fed right now I think is planning for three rate hikes this year, and a couple of people that I know are saying 4, and they're pretty well informed. And so I think what we're seeing is, we saw a 3 handle on GDP growth in Q4. We'll see what the Q1 numbers look like. But as growth continues, and the Fed is, their job now raising interest rates is making sure that the level of prices don't spiral out of control into hyperinflation. So as long as they keep a disciplined approach to raising rates, and so far they have over the last year or so, I don't see anything that's going to trip this up, barring some kind of global crisis or something.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it. Once again, I am Betsy Gibbon, and I am reporting at the Top Producer Seminar in Chicago.
GA Capital provides M&A, capital raising, and general corporate finance advisory services to companies in and around agribusiness. To speak with GA Capital, call Chris at 901-472-1353. AgDay. Brought to you by Instinct and Enserv nitrogen stabilizers. They don't just stabilize nitrogen, they maximize it, so crops deliver the max in return. Learn more at maxinmaxout.com. One dream, 2 prizes, 3 fields. Show us your farm and you could win a $10,000 donation for your community, plus a dream sports trip for you. To enter, visit powertodomore.com. Sponsored by Resicor Herbicide.
Welcome back to AgDay with meteorologist Mike Hoffman here as we watch this storm work its way from west to east. Looks like it's slowly coming in, but not much with it.
Yeah, once it gets east of the Rockies, there isn't a lot of moisture to start with, but it does moisten up as it heads towards the east coast. We also have another storm right behind it off the west coast that will be moving into those same areas once again. Now that might be the last one for a while, because as you're going to see on the jet stream, a big ridge pops up out west. Trough comes back to the east. But for now, kind of tranquil as we start Friday. You can see not a lot of moisture with that central system like we talked about, but we'll begin to see some clouds developing with the Gulf moisture returning out ahead of the front from the Great Lakes all the way into Texas, maybe a few showers in Texas. The next storm just offshore by later in the day today. That brings rain and mountain snows once again tonight, though, for many of you folks in western Oregon, western Washington, northwestern California. And the showers and thunderstorms start popping up in the southern Mississippi Valley with a few showers on up into the Great Lakes. Turns to snow showers farther north from there. Heading through the first day of the weekend tomorrow, you can see it turns fairly wet at times up and down the Appalachians, but especially just west of there into the Ohio and Tennessee River Valleys, southern Mississippi Valley as well. Next storm system putting down some snow in the northern Rockies. Checking out precipitation estimates over the past 24 hours. Most of it has been out west, as you can see, adding in the next 36. A lot of it's going to be west, but we will begin to see that moisture developing, like we pointed out, from the southern Mississippi Valley all the way into the eastern Ohio Valley, especially during the day tomorrow. A lot of that will come then. Snowfall estimates past 24 hours have been pretty much in the Rockies and in Canada, adding in the next 36 hours. It's still going to be out in the Rockies, but we're going to see a lot of snow moving across Canada, as you can see, from west to east, but very little in the lower 48 east of the Continental Divide. There are the temperatures this afternoon, pretty mild for late January here, with 50s all the way up into central Illinois, central Indiana, 30s and 40s farther north into the northern plains. Low temperatures tonight still going to be on the mild side from Chicago southward, as you can see, but a quick shot of colder air coming into the northern plains. Lows into the teens once again for parts of North Dakota and staying there as we head through the day tomorrow. But it's still pretty mild for this time of the year from St. Louis southward, even some 60s and 70s showing up in the far southeast. There's the jet stream, and you can see this trough and the storm system moving on through. That's a quick shot of Arctic air for early next week, but then it warms up briefly, and there's the real stuff. There's where we go back to the December and early January pattern. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. We head to Eugene, Oregon. First of all, cloudy with times of showers, high temperature of 46. Decatur, Illinois, windy with a mixture of sunshine and clouds, high 57. And Kingston, New York, sunny and a bit milder, high temperature around 36 degrees.
All right, Missy Bauer joins us next to talk about starter fertilizer on Farm Journal College TV. And later, can agriculture make its message about NAFTA heard in the halls of Washington?
The Farm Journal College Report is brought to you by Instinct and N-Serve nitrogen stabilizers. They don't just stabilize nitrogen, they maximize it, so crops deliver the max in return. Learn more at maxinmaxout.com.
As you saw in crop comments, it won't be long before planters start rolling in the southern U.S. Well, this morning, field agronomist Missy Bauer discusses starter fertilizer on Farm Journal College TV.
As a rule of thumb, we're pretty big fans of starter fertilizer. Really what it allows us to do is just get these plants off to a better start.
Okay.
When the soils in the spring are cool, they're wet, even though maybe you've got really good phosphorus levels, for example, in the soil, we have issues actually with uptake or availability because of the conditions. So it seems like whether you're in the north or in the south, everybody pushes the envelope on those planting dates and try to get in things on the early side.
Right.
So that's where we've seen some of the big advantages of starter fertilizer to really get these plants growing early and get them off to a better start.
Are there different kinds of starter fertilizer?
There are. There's a lot of different kinds. There's placements. So a lot of people use maybe a 10-34-0 in a 2x2 type placement, or maybe some blends with some nitrogen. So there's a lot of different kinds that are out there, different blends and ratios that you can run. And then the placement comes into it as well. So a traditional placement of starter fertilizer is what we'd call a 2x2, meaning 2 inches over and 2 inches below the actual seed.
Okay.
A little safe as far as it gets away from the seed. And then there's also what we'd call in-furrow or pop-up, meaning that I'm going to put a little bit on right in that furrow, either above or below that seed.
Okay.
So that's another kind of common placement that's out there. And then there's all kinds of different attachments that give us something in between there as well.
All right, thanks, Missy. Up next, finding a voice for agriculture during trade talks. Friday Farm Sense when we return.
AgDay, brought to you by Top Third Ag Marketing. Farmer first with a plan for every market. In the country, sponsored by Kubota. Tractors, hay tools, utility vehicles, mowers, and more. Visit Kubota.com today.
As the latest round of NAFTA negotiations come to a close, the entire ag industry, it seems, is watching, waiting to see the results. Now, over the last few weeks, several groups have formed to champion free trade and the impact of NAFTA. One group citing a study saying 43 million ag-related U.S. jobs depend on trade with Canada and Mexico. But numbers are what I'm afraid of. I'm hoping America's farmers, ranchers, and growers have the numbers to tip the trading scales in their direction. What do I mean by that? Well, I saw these numbers during the last election. If we're looking at rural voters, farming-focused counties make up about 20% of all counties nationwide, or roughly 6% of the population. Manufacturing-focused rural counties are roughly 18% of all counties, but it's 22.5% of the population, nearly 4 times higher. Last year, U.S. agricultural exports were valued at roughly $140 billion. Manufactured goods exports in 2016 were worth $1.2 trillion. I expect this is why the comments from the president and the negotiating team focus so heavily on manufacturing. And this is likely why these trade support groups are forming, tying their voices together. It's going to take farmers, equipment manufacturers, the Grocery Manufacturing Association, restaurants, and even the Global Cold Chain Alliance to add volume to the cause. Now, I think we all want the economy to succeed, jobs to increase, and wages to go up, but no one wants to be the pawn sacrificed for another move. I have no doubt folks close to the president are making agricultural's case, and the administration is well aware of what's at stake for the industry as trade talks progress. But This is a time to make your opinions heard. Speak up from each corner of farm country. Be part of the conversation. No matter your take, it's time for a robust debate and a clear direction. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in, spent part of your day with us. For Mike Hoffman, Betsy Gibbon, and all of us here at AgDay, have a great day.
AgDay, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest-lasting heavy-duty pickups.